we still know that the dragon is that wizard guy we fought. So from a narrative standpoint, like, we still got beef with that dragon.
Now, I didn't actually put this in my notes, but I think there are a couple things to reckon with. There are a couple situations where you don't want to do this. Like, there are situations where you just want to let the boss die. And I'm speaking from, like, player experience here. If you, as the GM, really push into your players' heads, like, hey, this fight coming up, it's real big, it's real important, make sure you get yourself, make sure you're prepared, and, you know, you keep setting the idea that it's going to be this big climactic thing, you have sort of put yourself in a corner, not necessarily narratively, but as a GM, you've written yourself into a bit of a corner, because if you don't pay off that initial climactic victory, it will feel a little unfounded. Even if the narrative supports it and it can work, you put yourself in a position where the players have such a high expectation of how that fight is going to end that doing it another way isn't really going to work, right? And I've brought this up before. This has happened to me. This happened to a party I was in, right? This is the mythical first campaign where we fought the werewolves in the
Port
on the river town, right? We were told by our GM for weeks that we had to make sure we prepared. We had to bring our A game. We had to pull out all the stops because we were going to lose otherwise. And we did. We pulled out all the stops and we got through some weird rulings. Like, you know, if usually you get bit by a werewolf, it's like a couple sessions before you lose control. With those werewolves, you got bit, you immediately turned, you lost control of your character, and then it took a remove curse and 2 separate skill checks to get your character back. So we were putting up with some shenaniganery, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
And then after everything, we only cut the guy's arm off. And then he ran away and did all the other crazy stuff I described a million times, right? Like, at that point, you can't have he runs away. Because, you know, it would be like, let's use Star Wars, for example, right? If at the end after A New Hope, all of the trailers, all the advertisement was like the climactic final battle between Luke and Vader, but then we got the ending that we got, which is a very good ending, you'd feel kind of robbed about that, right? You have built an expectation in your mind that one ending was going to be the case, and then it feels like you got rug pulled.
I don't think you're describing a situation where the villain can't escape necessarily, though. I think the problem that's occurring is just your victory getting robbed, right? Like, the way the werewolf situation went down felt like a cheap rug pull, and it like, you didn't. I think the main problem with that werewolf situation is that you didn't really achieve a victory despite beating him. You know, like, you didn't really gain anything, and it didn't hit as intensely as you wanted. But I don't think that situation means that you can't have the villain escape. It just means that victory punch needs to really land. You know what I mean? Like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, 'cause you're basically saying you can still do that delay thing, but when it eventually does finish, it absolutely needs to land.
it's got to land hard. Yeah, like if you build it up, then basically if you build up the anticipation, then the landing needs to hit that much harder. And I think the big problem with that particular scenario is not only did the landing not hit that hard, the landing arguably didn't hit at all because the villain escaped and you kind of didn't achieve anything. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like you beat the werewolves and then everyone was like, yay, the city is saved. It was like you beat the werewolves and then everybody showed up and was like, yeah, but you guys still kind of suck ass though. And like, that's not really a victory.
Well, it's both, right? So because the situation was, again, like we were told that it was going to be the final battle, right? Like, we were going to do all this stuff. Lives were on the line. We have to kill the werewolves now. And we were like, okay. And it wasn't like it was like 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Of seeing our GM every day and having this talk and him being like, you better get ready. You better be prepared. And then to not have that follow through. I don't think in that situation, and to be clear, there was a lot of stuff going on around that situation.
There was a lot of other shit going on too.
Anything that was less than a confirmed kill on that boss would have felt bad, and it did. And like, to be fair, I got that confirmed kill, but we jumped a lot of hoops and got into several arguments with the GM when it came to chasing that werewolf down and blowing his head off at long range. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the use of the word final for sure has some baggage, and I can't deny that part. But even if you do call a thing a final battle and the villain escapes, because, you know, here's the thing, right? If you envision it, I can't help but bring up Thanos. I try not to be that guy who constantly brings up Thanos, but it's kind of working here. The final battle, right, at the end of Infinity War is a final battle because when they go back and find Thanos later, it's not like he fights them again, right? He's given up, right? He did what he wanted to do. He's tapped out. So if you fought the werewolf dude and the werewolf dude escapes and then you find him later and he's just like sad old man living in a random hut in the middle of the woods and he doesn't try to like fight back or do anything, then like it was still a final battle, right? So I do think there's narrative situations where it can work, but again, the punch needs to be that much higher if you're building up the anticipation that much higher.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying, right? Is like, narratively, yes, it can work even when you do that. But the issue is that you have created a scenario outside of the campaign that creates an untenable situation within the campaign, right?
I mean,
that's kind of why I specifically said the advertisement for Emperor Strikes Back, or the Empire Strikes Back, if they kept being like, this is the end, final fight with Vader, but then it doesn't matter if the movie led to the same way that the movie ends right now, which is totally good. It's very effective. It's very interesting, very suspenseful. But that's not what people were sold on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is a little bit of an overselling of the situation for sure, which I don't know. That's hard to. You always want to sell it as a GM to some degree, so it's hard to. Sometimes you oversell it too much by accident.
Yeah.
I do think too, the other thing you got to keep in mind is there could be a situation where you have that final battle and the villain lives, but you have changed the game state so dramatically that it does have a sense of finality to it. So like maybe the werewolf dude lives, but you find him again later and he's not even a werewolf anymore. He's just a guy now. You know what I mean? And you have completely shut down his werewolf empire or whatever the fuck, to the point that he's literally just a dude. He has stopped being a werewolf and he is so dejected that, yeah, he lived, but you did defeat him. You defeated him spiritually and emotionally and like effectively. You know what I mean?
Right. So yes, to your point, like, let's say, because the way that fight ended, I remember this so vividly, the paladin got a crit. The paladin wizard pulled off one of the nastiest crits we'd ever seen. Like, took a critical hit in like right before the fight, was in single digit health. No one had healing spells left. Like, we were almost completely fresh out. And then he does the big crit, and then he throws that last high level smite into it. And we were like, we got it. Big money, no whammies.
Right.
Rolled an ass load of damage. And then the GM goes, and you cut his arm off. And then he runs out the door and the door shuts behind him. And then you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know what I mean? Like, but if he had described, you know, cutting the werewolf's arm off and then him reverting back to his human form and like the psychic backlash turned all the other werewolves in the area back into humans and they all passed out. But then he like channeled just the final bit of his energy to like turn back into the giant werewolf and punch through the roof and run away. Like, yeah, maybe we'd feel a little less angry about it, right? Because it's like, oh, we did actually do something. We stopped the infestation for the moment.
It needs to be the feeling of effect. Like, it needs to feel like you affected something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't feel. The problem is he was trying to rob the victory, right? He didn't want to like give it to you for whatever reason. You know, maybe he fucked up. Maybe he didn't plan. Maybe it didn't go. It wasn't as difficult as he was hoping. Like, who knows what was going through his head at the time? But yeah, it feel like he was trying to sneak the victory out from under you as opposed to letting you have it. It wasn't satisfying is the problem.
Yeah.
Right. The satisfaction is the most important bit to the whole equation. And,
yeah, no, you're right. It really is. It like in that situation there was no satisfaction.
Yeah.
On the flip side of this, the other situation where this doesn't work, and I would where or I guess it can work, but really should advise you against it, is if this does feel